Before I start this video, if you've not subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. YouTube has been slowly deleting my old subscriptions. If you like this video, please click the like button, share this out through social media, and leave comments in the comments section. Today, I'm going to be trying to answer a question that had been going around the news lately, and the question is AI going to kill Hollyweird? Well, I think it's going to be more like the last nail in the coffin, the last dagger in Caesar, the straw that broke the camel's back. Choose whatever metaphor you want. But Hollywood's been having problems for the last couple of decades, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And the first thing we're going to do is go back to the early 2000s when social media started gaining traction with the creation of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Of course, Twitter is now X. Also in the early 2000s, you had a new wave of over-political promotion, including celebrity activism, starting to replace interesting storytelling. So they were replacing interesting stories with the message. And I can't do that as well as Drinker. Moving forward to the 2010s, that brought us visual and mobile first platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. Now you could see these celebrities' lives in real time. You could hear what they thought. You could see how they lived. And I don't think most people liked what they saw and heard. Now you move forward to 2015 and we got hashtag Oscars So White. And that was basically DEI getting revved up and really pushed in Hollywood. You had studio chiefs and producers having to rethink how they were doing business. In other words, hire more women, hire more people of color. And that has not worked out at all. This, however, continued to gain momentum in 2016. And then in late 2017, we got hashtag Me Too. That was probably one of the most devastating moments, not because people didn't get what they deserved. There were people that definitely deserved to get fired. They deserved to get put in jail. However, these were the same people that controlled a lot of the creativity in Hollywood, and when they were removed, there was nothing to replace them. And again, the quality of product coming out of Hollywood greatly dipped. Moving forward to COVID, much of the talent in Hollywood was let go. I mean, you had people, I don't remember exactly when Lasseter got let go, but he got let go because he was a compulsive hugger. Okay, listen, if a guy comes up and hugs me, as long as he's not grabbing my junk like Jeremy does every time I go to a meetup, I'm okay with a hug, all right? You know, if he's not grabbing my junk or anything like that, it's okay. I can handle it. And if I know the guy is a chronic hugger, I know what's going on. And I got to think that women should be thinking the same way. If he's not grabbing you in your private parts, he's just giving you a hug because he's a really friendly guy. What's the problem? And on top of it, Jeremy continues to send me dick pics. I keep asking him to stop, and he continues to send me dick pics. So, Jeremy, again, for the love of God, stop sending me dick pics. Anyway, the talent was let go, and we got in replacement a bunch of modern feminists, a bunch of blue-haired freaks who couldn't write about anything other than their personal experiences and feelings, which nobody wants to see on a movie screen or a television screen. Hollywood stopped caring about entertainment and started caring about the message. And Drinker does that much better than I do. And the fan response was quite simple.
I don't care.
Yep, that was the response. I don't care. Then we move forward to 2023 and the Writers Guild of America and the Film Actors Guild slash AFTRA strike that reduced the length of seasons for television shows and shrunk the writers' rooms. So that worked out real well for the people that went on strike. Okay, so you had less stuff coming out after that. And by the way, movies were affected in the same way. And you had less people working. And by the way, those were the ones with some talent. The people with no talent were starting to get weeded out. Then we move forward and we finally get to the progression of AI in less than 3 years. The thing I'm going to point to as like the huge highlight of this is everyone remembers the Will Smith eating spaghetti with stable diffusion in March of 2023. It basically looked like shit. You know, everything was wrong. And then we get to May of 2025, basically just 2 years later, and the Google VO3 version that looked like 100 times better. I mean, you could still tell it wasn't Will Smith, but, you know, that was just 2 years. What's it going to be like in another 5 years with this? But let's take a step back for a moment and let's realize something. AI isn't HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is just a tool, and like any tool, it is only good as its users, which is going to be a problem for Hollywood because they don't have anybody with any talent left there. So the people that are going to be using the AI are the same ones that are writing the shitty television shows. They're directing, they're producing. They're just going to be using AI to do all this. And all it is going to be AI generated garbage. So instead of human slop, we're going to have AI slop coming from Hollywood. And what are we going to look at? We're going to be looking at independent content creators. All right. And I think if Hollywood hadn't been more worried about the message, if it just had continued on making good product, making the fans happy, I think as far as AI goes in this aspect, it probably would have slowed things down because there wouldn't have been as much of a demand for it. I'm serious about that. I think if we had had good Star Wars, if we had had good Star Trek, if we'd had good Doctor Who, if phases bore and dive of Marvel hadn't been the way they were, I don't think there'd be as many people using AI. There wouldn't be as much fanfic. I mean, I remember growing up, and even in my early years, my 20s, even maybe my teens, I had some friends who wrote fanfic. All right, there weren't a lot, but they were trying to do it. And of course, they would always give me their fanfic to read. And after they gave it to me, they always wanted my opinion. And here's how I felt about that.
Fuck.
I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But honestly, the fanfic I read was shit. So it left me with a moral dilemma. Do I tell the truth and hurt my friend's feelings? Or do I lie and expose myself to more of this crap? I'm not going to tell you what my answer was to that dilemma, because I don't want you thinking one way or the other of me. I mean, like I said, I think the vacuum of entertainment, the lack of good films, the lack of good television has sped up AI, the development of AI. It's increased the amount of people that want to write fan fiction. Not all of it is good, believe me. I hate shippers, okay? Shippers all belong in the ninth circle of hell. Yes, the Dante reference. It is some of the most god-awful shit out there. And whoever invented shipping should be the first one to go there. And you should never, ever leave. And you know what? Your punishment should be to read everybody else's crappy shipper shit until time ends. I don't know if there's enough time to turn the Titanic before it hits the iceberg. It's quite entirely possible that the Titanic has already struck the iceberg and we're just waiting for it to sink. I don't know. But I do know that if they continue on their present course, they're doomed. Hollyweird will die. It will not come back. And some people may argue that if it remains in its current state, that's exactly what it deserves. And we'd be better off without it. We'd be better off without these people who don't care about their fans, even though their fans are how they earn their living. I don't know how that's become such a disconnect. Your fans pay your salaries. When your fans don't watch your television shows, when they don't go to your movies, you end up in the end losing money. You lose work. Almost no one is immune to that, and they're beginning to figure that out. I remember Sydney Sweeney once said very recently that she actually makes more money off of advertising than she does acting. And I can see how that is. All right. Until her last movie, the Maid one, I don't remember the name. She hadn't had any box office hits. Not a one. But her Eagle Jeans ad sure as hell went through the stratosphere. So she's marketing herself in advertising. And until AI gets into that, it's probably a good idea that if you think you have a huge following, that you should be advertising. That's where the money's at. Sports celebrities in the same way. Michael Jordan, for his whole career as an NBA basketball player, never made nearly as much as his endorsements did. He's a billionaire basically because of his endorsements, not because of how much he got paid as a basketball player. The margins are a little bit closer these days because the salaries have gone up exponentially from the 1980s and 90s. But the same rule applies. You can get hundreds of millions of dollars by endorsing a shoe company if you're an NBA basketball player. That is probably close to a lifetime of salary for an NBA basketball player, especially for most players. They probably won't see a couple $100 million. The same rule applies to actors and actresses. And especially these days, because movies aren't making the money that they used to. And I doubt this is ever coming back. So you have to have something to fall back on. And how do you fall back? Well, you start doing commercials, you start shilling for different companies. And if you attract enough people, if enough people buy the product you're shilling for, you can make a vast fortune off of that. And I think that's where most actors and actresses are going to go until AI figures out a way to duplicate them legally, and then they're completely screwed. I think I'm going to leave this video on that note. So, like my father told me when I was 18 years old, the free video's over. Get out.